clearly for the judges to see if you're hoping to win a prize.
Okay guys, so the issue I'm talking about today is dogfighting. How do you feel about it? Do you think it's morally wrong? Do you think it's acceptable?
I don't know a lot about it, but from the offset, I would say it's morally wrong, probably.
Yeah, I think if the first thought straight away has got to be very morally wrong.
There's an evolved aspect to meat eating, in that there is I would say, for the last, well, I think you certainly justify last 8,000 years, you'd look at our ancestry, Western Europe, moving across present and so forth. I would think most of our ancestors ate meat for a part of their diet, probably a very rich and important part of the diet when they could do it.
I suppose the thing with this in terms of moral justifications is that we could find many things that we have done for thousands of years, including sexually abusing women. So it's the fact that we're causing suffering, and would you also say the idea that it's so unnecessary, like we don't need to do it?
Yeah. I agree.
So I'm going to take that logic and apply it to another scenario. So don't worry. So let's say in parts of Asia where they eat dogs. Would you say it's unnecessary, and would you say that's causing suffering as well?
Oh, it's hard to say. It's just where's the line, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say with Asia, I don't know, with kind of, I don't really know, because I don't really know a lot about Asian culture, so I can't really comment.
Anyone does something that's easy for them to do. So if something is easy for them to do, and I think increasingly that's the case because commercial providers are going that way. Corn recently has removed egg products from their products, or they're going that way. If it's easy to do something, lazy person like me, I'll probably do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if we think about the convenience of the products, let's say hypothetically it wasn't convenient at all. We couldn't get these products very readily available, and you had to kind of go out of your way to buy the vegan products instead. Do you think that lack of convenience, would that justify the paying for the animal cruelty, or would you say you care less about convenience than you do about an animal's life?
Isolating it hypothetically, you're correct. I should care more about the animal than I care about convenience.
Can we impose our Western values and beliefs on other countries?
In Saudi Arabia, it's part of the culture for women to get treated really poorly, so they can get stoned to death, for example. Let's say hypothetically you could put an end to that. You could make it illegal to stone a woman to death for getting raped in Saudi Arabia. Would you make it illegal?
Yes.
Regardless of the fact that it's part of their culture?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Of course.
So then you would agree with me in saying that the fact that eating dogs is part of their culture, that doesn't mean it's morally acceptable.
Yeah.
On the other hand, of course, you've got to bear in mind the animals wouldn't even exist, though. I'd say it's the cruelty versus existence thing as well.
That's true.
I'm not sure it's right to exist just to be eaten by someone else.
So let's say I had a dog for dog fighting, and you said, I think that's wrong, and I said, the dog wouldn't be here if I wasn't breeding the dog for dog fighting and selling them.
I think there's a slight difference in that the outcome is purely something of pleasure and something else is suffering, as opposed to pleasure in eating something which is a result of suffering. But it's a subtle distinction, I agree.
But would you say that the reason we eat these products is for pleasure in the same way someone goes to a dog fighting event?
I don't know. I wouldn't say pleasure automatically, but when you challenge it that way, then maybe it is pleasure. Maybe it is a pleasurable choice or an easier choice.
Yeah,
and maybe it's not so different from enjoying watching another animal be hurt by another animal.
Is there any difference between dog fighting and, say, eating an animal morally?
With obviously dog fighting, you're putting those dogs through pain. I don't know how many times they would fight. Is it to the death, I assume. But whereas nowadays with, I'd say, regulations that they will be put down humanely in most circumstances, you'd hope.
What do you think that term means, humane slaughter? Like, what does it entail?
Oh, I don't actually know.
So what is the difference between dog fighting and killing an animal for food? Do you think there's an ethical difference?
I think there is an ethical difference, but it's subtle and not clear-cut.
What makes you think there is?
The two-stage aspect, in that there's something different about seeking directly to impose harm on something purely for harm's sake.
Let's say that I've got an animal. I've got an animal in front of you, and I can stab that animal because I like watching the animal suffer. It's for my pleasure, the act of doing it. Or I stab the animal in the throat the same way and eat them. Does my reason for doing it make any difference to the victim of my choice?
No, not from that animal's perspective. No.
Yeah.
There are some obviously benefits to your body, like protein, stuff like that. You do get benefits, not just like with dogfighting, I can't think of what, not satisfaction, just for the enjoyment.
Sure.
You're not actually getting an actual benefit out of it.
But do you think you can get the same amount of protein from other sources?
Yeah, but then again it goes to that argument, whereas, that some people can't available. I know, again, that I would be able to, but...
Well, isolating the difference that you mentioned, whether it's done for the pleasure, for me getting the pleasure, or killing them and then getting the pleasure from my taste. And I'm trying to challenge you and say, I don't see the difference. I don't see the difference there, because I don't think it affects the consciousness of the animal.
I agree with you from the animal's perspective.
And do you think that when we look at an injustice, should we look from the victim's perspective? Is that where the focus should be? Because they're the one experiencing.
You used the word injustice there, which I'd like to explore if you want to in a minute.
Absolutely, yeah. How would you define injustice?
I think unfairness within a social construct.
Would you say that...
I don't think there's a social construct. And there's a fundamental belief, and one of the fundamental precepts, I would say, is a precept the right word? Anyway, is that we are saying that animals in some way less than us. And in fact, some people will look at that carefully and they say, well, I wouldn't eat a cow or a sheep, but I'd eat a chicken, or I wouldn't eat any animal, but I'm a pescatarian, I'd eat a fish, or someone would say, oh, I wouldn't eat a fish.
Do you think that the animal needs to be equal to you in order not to kill the animal? So
No,
I've got
I don't think so, no.
Say if I've got a chicken here, I don't need to believe that chicken is of equal value to me not to kill a chicken. I just need to believe that their life is worth more than my taste buds.
Yeah, but then if you take that viewpoint, how do you go down to the level that we're growing specialised grasses for me to eat the seeds from them?
Do you think
What's the difference? What's the difference? You're going to a life of some kind, which you've created or modified to exist, and you're interfering with its normal course.
Maybe because humans, you can actually communicate with them, and you can form more of a rapport with them, and I don't know, more shared life experiences. Where with a pig, like you said before, you're quite distanced from it, I guess. And I'm not condoning it, but I just think maybe that's where you come
do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
I got another hypothetical, guys.
Thank you.
So I've got an older gentleman with dementia. He can't even talk to me. He's completely gone. No rapport. He can't form conversations with me. He doesn't know what's going on. Would it be more ethical for me to kill him?
See,
if you wanted you to.
I really struggle with it. Yeah.
But if he didn't, let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Sorry.
Oh, so he doesn't want to be killed?
No.
Yeah, just like we give him the benefit of the doubt like we would to a dog, I guess. So would it be more ethical for me to kill a person with dementia?
Oh, there you are.
No.
Come on, Teddy.
So it's not necessarily that they can't communicate with us in that way. I think maybe you're right in a sense it makes it easier for us to do it, but in terms of the moral justification, it doesn't quite make sense. We give moral value to beings who can experience well-being. So I know it's like something to be you. I know that you can feel sensations right now. You can feel pleasure, you can feel pain. I can say the same thing to a dog that's walking past. I can say, I know it's something like to be that dog. I couldn't say that about a blade of grass. From my knowledge, there's nothing like to be a blade of grass. They can't feel things. They haven't got consciousness.
Some single-celled creatures, they will move away from light, they will move away from things like that.
Right.
I can't avoid eating those creatures because they're in my water.
But what they're showing there is a reaction to stimuli, which doesn't mean sentience. So
You're talking about sentience as self-awareness.
self-awareness, yeah.
Okay.
Self-awareness is a good way to look at it.
We're saying, is a fish self-aware, for example?
So yeah, they can feel pain.
Everything feels. Plants feel pain. They react to things that happen to them.
That's not what pain is, though, right?
Isn't it? Reacting to a stimulus which is adverse, is that not pain?
No.
What's pain?
Pain is a sensation. So what is the difference between me as a human and, say, a pig? The difference between us that justifies that difference in treatment?
I don't know, it's a thought process, really. I mean, to think, to communicate, I guess.
Intelligence.
Going back, and intelligence. Go back to your point. I think you probably put it better than I can.
So let's say if I have a human with very low intelligence,
Number 53.
very low intelligence, perhaps a young child or someone with a mental disability, would it be ethical for me to slit their throat?
No. No.
So do you think the fact that an animal is less intelligent, does that make it moral to slit their throat?
68, Junior with Isabella. Finally.
I sometimes feel a bit worried when we're eating things that are emulating. We're celebrating. It could be in a situation in 10 years' time. We're almost celebrating that we used to eat meat.
So to me, I'd say there's nothing wrong with that because it's not affecting the any well-being of any conscious creatures. I eat products that taste like animals, but it's not in like celebration. It's because I like the way they taste, and I grew up doing this, and I want to be able to enjoy all of these foods without exploiting anyone. But I guess the big question is, if we can do that,
Why aren't we doing it?
why aren't we doing it? If you could live a life where you're harming humans, animals, or neither, which would you rather choose?
Neither.
Neither.
Do you think being vegan would be closer to that goal?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate that I'm putting you guys on the spot. Would you rather live in a vegan world where animals aren't exploited?
Yes.
So, would you rather be vegan yourself?
I'm working towards it. So, yeah.
And would you say that being vegan is more in line with who you are?
When I think about it, yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I'll leave you a card.
Thank you very much.
If you were to watch one thing on here,
Yeah.
I watched this speech, this university lecture, best speech you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
I watched that 2 years ago on YouTube. It changed my life.
Okay.
So definitely watch that.